Entergy is proud to support programming on LPB and greener practices that preserve Louisiana.
The goal of our environmental and sustainability initiatives really is to ensure that our kids and future generations can be left with a cleaner planet.
Additional support provided by the Fred B. and Ruth B. Ziegler Foundation and the Ziegler Art Museum located in Jennings City Hall. The museum focuses on emerging Louisiana artists and is an historical and cultural center for Southwest Louisiana. And the Foundation for Excellence in Louisiana Public Broadcasting, with support from viewers like you.
Those storms just sat here and dumped rain on us for hours.
The deluge that never ended.
We are actually monitoring the situation as it progresses.
The Cajun Navy Relief, always on the ready.
I don't like Louisiana politics. I love Louisiana.
Remembering the governor who sparked the Roemer Revolution.
Hi everyone, I'm Kara St. Cyr.
And I'm Andre Morrow. Right now on SWI, funeral services have been set for former Governor Buddy Roemer. He died Monday at the age of 77.
Roemer will be remembered at 2 services next week, first in Baton Rouge, then in Shreveport. The Baton Rouge service is next Tuesday morning at 9, that's May 25th, with visitation and service at Estruma Baptist Church. Then Thursday morning, May 27th, at 9:30 in Shreveport at First United Methodist Church, with visitation and service to follow.
Buddy Roemer was one of the finest, friendliest men I've ever met. I felt close to him. I talked to his son, Chaz Roemer, this week, and Chaz told me of his father's deep love and faith in Louisiana and his political ethics, the Roemer Revolution, to clean up the type of dirty politics the state had become known for.
He lost a few legislative battles that he probably could have won had he been willing to do business like it's always been done before. And he just said, I'm not going to do it. And I remember vividly sitting in his office probably about 11:30 at night. I think it was his first year in office, and there was a debate going on about the budget. And technically our state would go bankrupt at midnight if the budget wasn't passed. A group of legislators came in, a small group, and they suggested that if Dad were willing to give in on some pork barrel project that they wanted in their district, when you got to remember our state was near bankruptcy, we didn't have any extra money for these types of projects. And they came in and said, hey, buddy, if you're, they call him governor, hey, governor, if you're willing to compromise and give us these things for our friends, we'll pass your budget. And he said, well, if that's the deal, I'm going home. And he didn't make the deal. And he walked out and went back to the governor's mansion, and the budget didn't pass, and it caused my dad a lot of political grief. We had to skip a payment for state workers. There are a lot of things he had to do because of that, but he thought that was the whole reason he was here. In terms of his politics, in terms of being governor, it was time to quit making deals behind closed doors. It was time to make progress and do it in the sunlight of the day and help our state.
Later in this broadcast, my 2017 interview with the former governor and how he came to write the memoir of his life.
What we're looking at right now is video of CSC Customs in Baton Rouge. It was one of several flood casualties this week. Luckily, no one working here was injured, but not everyone was that fortunate.
Not at all. In a press briefing, Governor John Bel Edwards said that 5 people have died because of high water this week. 4 of those 5 lost their lives in their car. They were driving through flooded streets when their cars were submerged and couldn't get out in time. He also urged people to do this.
If you have received damage from flooding or severe weather this week, we ask that you please report that damage by visiting damage.la.gov. That's damage.la.gov. You're going to be directed to a self-reporting survey. It's really important that you fill it out because this is the information that we're going to be collecting. Local and state emergency managers will use it to help make the decisions about what we do going forward, and if necessary, it helps make the case for federal assistance for our recovery process.
During that press briefing, the governor also covered COVID and vaccinations. As of right now, the U.S. average of people fully vaccinated is at 38%. Louisiana is off pace at only 30, among the bottom 4 states in the nation.
The governor and doctors with state public health urged parents with children 12 years and up to get them vaccinated. They say there's overwhelming evidence of safety and also health security that the vaccine provides. And now let's take a look at other headlines that are making news around our state. Nighttime body cam footage of the deadly arrest of a black man is finally seeing the light of day after 2 years. The incident happened in 2019 after a car chase outside Monroe. The video shows state troopers stunning, punching, and dragging Ronald Green as he wails, "I'm sorry, I'm sorry." The arrest is now the subject of a civil rights investigation. Unlike other in-custody deaths, this footage wasn't released for 2 years, and Green's case has been shrouded in secrecy and accusations of cover-up. Work has begun on 3 coastal projects designed to restore nearly 5 square miles. The rebuilding of beach, dune, marsh, and ridge is happening near Venice, Grand Isle, and east of New Orleans. They're using 18 million cubic yards of sediment dredged from the Mississippi River. That's enough mud to fill the Superdome 18 times. The total cost, just under $257 million, is being paid by money from BP and the Deepwater Horizon disaster. A bill to allow candidates for office to take unlimited sums of money directly from political action committees moved closer to final passage. The bill's sponsor says it would do away with restrictions on money that comes from special interest groups as more of a transparency bill than anything. A preliminary report from the National Transportation Safety Board says the Seacorp Power had begun to lower its legs and was trying to turn to face heavy winds when it flipped 8 miles offshore in the Gulf of Mexico. Of the 19 people on board, only 6 were rescued. The report says the oil rig lift boat overturned during 90-mile-an-hour winds and huge swells back on April 13. The Weather Channel posted a video on its website this week calling Lake Charles the most weather-battered city in America. Well, no one living there would disagree. It is now 4 major weather events to hit southwest Louisiana in the past year. Cat 4 Hurricane Laura in August, then Cat 2 Delta in October. The February winter storm left the city without power and water again. And this past Monday, the 3rd heaviest rainfall in Lake Charles' record flooded many of the city's homes.
We've all seen the footage of highways spilling over with water and families watching their homes flood in several parishes, some for the second time. In Lake Charles, the same story. Historic levels of rain hit the city, pushing back the recovery after Hurricanes Laura and Delta. Tonight, we hear stories from some of those victims.
In her 42 years of life, Robbie Hall has seen high water like this only twice. The first time was unexpected in 2016, and the second was this week on May 17th.
You don't think it's an issue until it's an issue. Because like I said, we didn't know until we started seeing the water rise up again and not realizing how fast and how quickly it was coming in. We went into panic mode.
Her driveway is covered and water sits right at Hall's doorstep, just waiting for more rain to push it inside her home. When she goes to the other side of her house, the influx is already starting.
I'm stepping off into the water.
It's only a thin layer of water covering the ground, but it brings back memories. Hall prays it won't get any higher.
I'm strong in my faith, a very firm believer that God would not bring me to it if He would not bring us through it.
In neighboring parishes, East Baton Rouge, Iberville, and Calcasieu, the water got so high it flooded people's homes. It's hard not to compare these visuals to 2016, but in a press conference, Governor John Bel Edwards says it's nowhere near the water levels we saw 5 years ago.
A lot of folks have been making comparisons already to 2016, especially the August flood. And obviously, anytime you have severe flooding of this nature, that I think there are comparisons to be made. This time, though, we've had breaks in the rain that we didn't have before. The water and river levels have been able to recede before the next round would roll in.
We also haven't had enough rain from up north to push more water into surrounding areas. But in Lake Charles, the weather wasn't as forgiving.
Those storms just sat here and dumped rain on us for hours. And so it put the whole city at a standstill. I mean, all the schools are closed today. They're closing tomorrow because, like I said, it started raining like a couple hours ago. And then it's supposed to get worse tonight. And then it's supposed to rain even more tomorrow and the next day. So we're all just kind of crossing our fingers and hoping that it's not going to be like that again.
Derek Williams watched water rise up the sidewalk near his house. He took this picture to show just how high it got. Now, keep in mind, Williams is 6 feet tall, and the water in this photo is nearly coming up to his chest.
It was a very real thing. You could not drive. Most of the places in Lake Charles, most of the areas that were flooding, they're not even areas that are prone to flooding. Like our street up front, it does flood, but it never floods that much. Usually you can still see the sidewalk. The sidewalks are probably a good 6 inches above the road itself. And usually you can still see the top of that. It never actually covers that, even when we get just a random heavy rainstorm.
Williams is one of the luckier people in Lake Charles. His home didn't flood. He just watched as other people tried to navigate the influx. Lake Charles experienced 15 to 17 inches of rain in certain parts of the city, taking everyone by surprise, including Williams. Officials say that a minimum of 400 to 500 homes were damaged by the high water. And somewhere in that number were people trying to rebuild after Hurricane Laura.
What we experienced yesterday was more rainfall than we had during Laura last year. Parts of the city had more rainfall than we experienced for Hurricane Delta. When you compound what happened yesterday on top of the fact that we have been through at this juncture 2 hurricanes and a winter storm, it's just unprecedented and historic. Words really are hard to come by to accurately describe what we're going through here in Lake Charles.
To Nick Hunter, the mayor of Lake Charles, the unusual weather patterns are more than just an inconvenience for the city. It's an obvious sign that the weather is changing.
What happened yesterday was technically a 100-year event. We have had multiple quote unquote 100-year events over the last decade in this city. So call it climate change, call it whatever you want. Something is amiss. And I just believe that we have got to acknowledge that. And to do otherwise would be a disservice to the present and the future.
But more importantly than recognizing that, Mayor Hunter says Lake Charles needs Washington's attention.
It seems the mayor of Lake Charles is somewhat getting through to the White House. Nick Hunter did get a phone call from President Biden on Wednesday. He offered his support through these difficult times.
In disasters, the Cajun Navy, that's something that's synonymous with helping out. I talked with the president of Cajun Navy Relief about the work they do. Colleen Udell told me it is year-round now, planning and preparation for rescue and relief, especially as another hurricane season begins.
So far this week, we deployed boaters to Lake Charles, Louisiana, and we also deployed boaters to Baton Rouge due to the flooding that had occurred. I don't think anybody anticipated having to, respond to flooding. However, with the recent hurricanes, there was a lot of debris in the ditches still. The drainage is ineffective. And needless to say, the water came up fast. The rivers are going to probably stay high for a little bit. So any more rain on top of what has already come in, we are actually monitoring the situation as it progresses and prepared to respond if necessary. There is a little bit of a story behind the word relief, and it has to do is we do provide relief as well. When we go in, we're going to be that initial response, and it's our goal to also provide supplies afterwards up to 2 weeks, depending on the severity of the event. And right now, some of the local churches are already providing those supplies that are needed. And if we're requested, we can always get them some more. So this is a year-round effort. We actually, during the off season, we're taking inventory, we're repairing our own personal assets, We are also doing training. All of our volunteers, we request them to take FEMA ICS Incident Command Structure courses, 100, 200, 700, and 800, to familiarize themselves with the incident command structure, as we act as a force multiplier for agencies that are responding to these storms. So not only do we have them do the online virtual FEMA training that is offered, we also attend training events.
What is the number of volunteers that you guys have, and where are they all from?
Our volunteers are actually all over the world. We have a volunteer that is in the United Kingdom, and we stretch all over. So we have a core group, maybe full-time volunteers of anywhere from 40 to 100. It really depends. Everybody has their own personal life, but we have a volunteer network of over 3,000 that we can reach out and tap to at any time. We do have spontaneous volunteers that come in that'll contact us and say, hey, I'm an EMT, I'm a firefighter, I'm a retired police officer. I've been working, chainsaw. Louisiana is, very woodsy. So you have individuals who are used to swinging the bigger chainsaws. They'll come in, anybody that can run a tractor. And it's just not, boots on the ground, boats in the water. We have a support system behind us. Dispatchers, we have dispatchers that are sitting in Maryland, Kentucky, individuals all over the United States who are able to assist in whatever way they see fit. We're headquartered in New Orleans, Louisiana. This is, however, we are remote, we are virtual. Our volunteers live all across Louisiana, Texas. As we spoke earlier, we have a volunteer in the UK. So we're everywhere.
To volunteer, donate, or help, you can go to CajunNavyRelief.com.
Session had a bit of a slow start this week. The rain pushed a lot of things back by at least a day, so some lawmakers are playing catch up, but some important things still happened. Louisiana will not see marijuana legalized this session, and some legislators were removed from their positions. Tonight I'll highlight some things you may have missed.
The push to legalize recreational marijuana in the state of Louisiana has ended. Representative Richard Nelson's bill did not get the support it needed in the House to move on to the next step. Only 47 people supported it, while 48 voted against it. Opposers say the bill was rushed and irresponsible. Nelson says he'll put his bill on the shelf for later. Representative Ray Garofalo has been removed from his leadership role weeks after his controversial comments about slavery. During debate on a bill that would cover how students are taught divisive topics in class, Garofalo said it's important that students acknowledge the good components of slavery. This, of course, caused tension between lawmakers, with some members of the Black Caucus calling for Garofalo's removal. The House's second-ranking Republican, Tanner McGee, said that Garofalo was asked to step down only temporarily until the end of session. A bill to keep local government agencies from requiring proof of COVID vaccinations is advancing to the House. The bill would make it illegal for agencies to require the vaccine for people to get their licenses, permits, or even their degrees. The bill also specifies that no one should be barred from any locations for not having the vaccine. Supporters of the bill say that this is necessary to prevent discrimination of people who choose to opt out of the vaccination process. The bill sailed through the House Civil Committee 8-3. In an effort to get more people jobs, some lawmakers are putting together a proposal that'll give out a $1,000 bonus to those on unemployment, but only if they go back to work. They also have to get off unemployment benefits before they can get the bonus. Lawmakers say that the benefits are keeping people from going out and looking for actual jobs, which is hurting some businesses who can't find enough staff to work. Right now, the state of Louisiana offers an extra $300 to people who are unemployed. Wednesday, business owners asked Governor John Bel Edwards to join GOP members in the effort to take that away. But the governor refused to end the weekly federal aid, even after retailers and restaurant owners wrote a letter to him this week. Months after the 2020 presidential election, access to voting in Louisiana is still a hot topic. While legislators are looking to limit people's access to vote, others are looking to make it easier for people to cast a ballot. A proposal to add 4 more days to the early voting calendar is inching along to final passage. It gained just the right amount of support in the Senate's Elections Oversight Committee. That bill has already won over support from the House. Now its next step is the Senate floor for debate.
Also, something new coming out this week. Louisiana is forecasted to get more money in the budget to spend, about $677 million to be more exact. Lawmakers are already in the talks of putting that toward teacher pay raises, among other things.
When I sat down with former Governor Buddy Roemer 4 years ago, it was 3 years after his stroke that affected his speech and his ability to get around. But those life-altering hardships very likely helped produce the book that he wrote, not about his political life or his business success, but about growing up on the family plantation Scopina. Here's our interview from 2017.
3 years ago, in July of 14, I had a stroke. Small stroke, but centered in my speech and walking facilities.
This is Buddy Roemer at his office in Baton Rouge. His stroke at first robbed him of his ability to speak. It did not affect his mind or his thoughts. Aggressive physical therapy and a suggestion from his doctor brings us to the reason for our visit today.
He said, what you should do is write. I think you could use to tell a hell of a story.
So he began to write about Scopina, a memoir of home, and the doctor was right.
I wrote 298 pages about growing up on Scopina from the age of 6 to 16 when I went off to college.
Scopina is a place. You can see it from Highway 71 south. But the heart of Scopina, the life of Scopina, the magic of Scopina, the uniqueness of Scopina was Mom and Dad, raising 5 kids under a philosophy that ignored what the rest of the world thought and that emphasized individual effort. With Mom and Dad gone, I want to tell the story of Scopina. He remembers well his first day of school, the first grade. He did not love it. And after a few hours, right before lunch, his opportunity to sneak out and run back home came. Exactly how he would navigate the 12 miles to Scopina, he did not know.
But you wound up at this grocery store where the grocery owner took care of you, gave you a Coke, and called your dad, and your dad came. It's interesting, you anticipated his reaction to be different, perhaps, than it was.
I anticipated him to get angry with me.
As he waited, he nervously wondered.
Dad might not like this independent streak. I saw his red pickup and I said, I'm in trouble now.
But he wasn't.
He rubbed in my head and said, let's go home, buddy.
Let's go home.
Let's go home. Let's go to Scopina. It was the greatest drive we ever made.
Yeah.
Him and me.
Roemer's mother, Adeline Roemer, was peacemaker, deal maker, and much, much more.
You were close to her, it sounds like.
I'm very close to my mother. She was a wonderful mother. She was very skilled with people. She taught us homeschooling for a long time. And then I graduated from Bossier High School. The book tells the story of Mom deciding that I would not go to college early.
Harvard wanted to enroll him early, but his mom said no and had a very specific reason why.
He's going to be governor of Louisiana, and he'll graduate from high school in Louisiana.
Now, this had never been discussed, but his mom knew her son's potential well, something he realized with the Roemer Revolution campaign of 1987. He was 44.
Some insiders say I'm not a good politician because I say things that make some people angry. They're right. I do. Made some people in Washington angry when I refused to take a congressional pay raise, passed by the politicians for the politicians. That doesn't surprise you, does it? Politics as usual. I don't like Louisiana politics. I love Louisiana. I love Louisiana enough to make some people angry.
It sounds like she was a great politician.
She was good.
His mom ran for his seat in Congress in 1988 when he became governor, but Roemer says lost because she was a Democrat. Growing up on their 10,000-acre cotton farm in the segregated 1950s, Roemer had a far advanced view of race relations. Again, he says, thanks to his parents.
You never knew at Scopina whether you were white or black. The foremen were white and black. The cotton ginners were white and black, men and women. Dad was very conservative, but when it came to people, he thought every person was valuable. He never used the N-word, never. Dad was hung in effigy by many people who were Ku Klux Klanners. I tell in my book, read it.
Our interview with Buddy Roemer in 2017. And everyone, that is our show for this week. Remember, you can watch anything LPB anytime, wherever you are, with our LPB app.
You can catch LPB News and public affairs shows as well as other Louisiana programs you've come to enjoy over the years. And please like us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
For everyone at Louisiana Public Broadcasting, I'm Andre Morrow.
And I'm Kara St-Cyr.
Until next time, that's the state we're in.
Entergy is proud to support programming on LPB and greener practices that preserve Louisiana.
The goal of our environmental and sustainability initiatives really is to ensure that our kids and future generations can be left with a cleaner planet.
Additional support provided by the Fred B. and Ruth B. Ziegler Foundation and the Ziegler Art Museum located in Jennings City Hall. The museum focuses on emerging Louisiana artists and is an historical and cultural center for Southwest Louisiana. And the Foundation for Excellence in Louisiana Public Broadcasting, with support from viewers like you.